This is Listen Lakeland, the show that keeps you up to date on all the things that make our city a great place to live, work, and play. Today's host leads the Watson Clinic Foundation's Arts in Medicine program, reaching more than 50,000 people annually. A passionate advocate for the healing power of the arts, she has helped launch several community health initiatives and brings both heart and strategy to her work at the intersection of arts and wellness. Please welcome your host, Tiffany Van Wieren.
Welcome to the good life.
Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Tiffany Van Wieren, and it is great to be hosting this month's episode of Listen Lakeland. This show is an extension of Lakeland Vision. For over 2 decades, Lakeland Vision has been a voice for the citizens of Lakeland, working with community stakeholders to create a bright future for our city. Today's show is themed around our shared story, celebrating Lakeland's cultural legacy. February is Black History Month. It's also a time when Lakeland Vision's focus on activities for a diverse community feels especially meaningful. When we talk about diversity, we're not just talking about events on a calendar. We're really talking about belonging, shared history, how the stories of our neighbors shape strong, safe, and connected neighborhoods. And our stories don't just live in one place, right? They live in our neighborhoods, they live in our libraries, our churches, our community organizations, and in the memories of the people who grew up here. Joining me today are 2 special guests who are going to help tell Lakeland's story from different but deeply connected perspectives. Lynne Simpkins is a lifelong Lakeland resident and a community leader whose work reflects decades of commitment to community and neighborhood connection. And of course, we also have LuAnn Mims, who oversees the Lakeland History Room at the Lakeland Public Library, helping to preserve and share those stories that shape our collective memory. Welcome, both of you. So I think first, I just want to start off by asking you to just share a little bit about yourselves and your connection with Lakeland.
Well, I think I'm kind of a newcomer here. I've been here about 16 years, coming from North Carolina, but I fell in love with the community and its history and have served as kind of a shepherd into getting more people in the community to know about our local history and appreciate it.
That's wonderful. Thank you, LuAnn.
Well, I am a baby boomer, born and raised in the beautiful city of Lakeland, Florida. Growing up here was amazing. I grew up and went to schools here, worked here, and Lakeland is one of the best places you can live, work, and play. Had the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people as I matriculated through my high school years to my careers. And I am looking forward to doing so much more. And as this broadcast goes on, looking forward to sharing more of my story.
That's wonderful. So, I think looking at the library, so LuAnn, this question is more geared towards you. Our libraries aren't just the stagnant place for books, right? They are a living resource. They're about access, representation, community. I mean, I was telling you earlier that we just participated as a family with the Percy Jackson Escape Room. A lot of people don't know there's so much programming that happens. But can you talk about the Lakeland History Room and kind of why it's an important resource for our community?
So first off, a lot of communities do not have a public library that has all of the programming that Lakeland has to offer. We've got the 3 branches here, and hopefully we'll have a 4th one coming soon. But it's more than books, and it's more than literacy. It's bringing the community together. And those programs that you're talking about helps to level the playing field for a lot of the community that maybe they don't have that supplemental activity in their life, but we can bring that, and it's always free at the public library. So specific to the Lakeland History and Culture Center, which was a idea formed several years ago that we needed to do some visual storytelling to have more people engage with their own history. My background's in public history, and that's kind of our forte as applied history, is to bring that message out to the public. And so we've crafted a cultural environment that is supported by a very robust collection of materials, artifacts, photographs, scrapbooks, etc., that we can now turn into visual pieces that if you're just coming for the library to pick up a book, you're walking by this, you're getting exposed to it, and you're finding out more about our local history. Our current exhibit focuses on Lakeland's citrus culture and how important we were to that commodity and within the state and in the country as well.
And there's actually a resource that's online as well, on the component of this.
Yes. Additionally, we have a very big, over 11,000 images have been scanned in, can be keyword searched, and you can just go today and just type in citrus, and you can see kind of through the decades photographically what that looked like for Lakeland.
That's just wonderful. I think, what an appropriate thing to have our library be the host of that, because this is where we go for stories, right? And those stories connect us in such a wonderful way, and so does the programming. And I feel like we are also the bearers of those stories. There's a responsibility. I was talking to somebody the other day that there's this responsibility that comes with learning history, because then you become a bearer of that story, which is such a unique and wonderful burden that I hate to say burden because that's not really what it is, responsibility to have. So Lynn, really question for you, you growing up here, what are some of the what did your neighborhood growing up mean to you?
My neighborhood was like a village. Everybody knew one another. We looked out for each other. As a child, my mother felt comfortable. If she was in the house and we were out playing, she felt comfortable, but our neighbors were our eyes and ears, and they knew how to communicate with each other. We grew up where there was a park up the street, and if I were to go to the park, even people that lived around the park knew how to get in touch with my mom.
How many of us had aunties at home that were actually neighbors that really,
Yes.
would tell our mom all the things we did?
And you couldn't go back and say I didn't do it because your mother took their word over our word.
Uh-huh.
But it was a great place. Family meant everything back in the day when I was growing up, and our community was that village.
Oh, that's wonderful. And, the village actually also carries a story too. So I think
Does.
about these kind of things that, the stories that get told as well. So this is a question for both of you. What do you feel when we talk about Lakeland history? And I'm not a Lakeland native, but I've learned so much just being here. And even just preparing for this, I've learned even more, which is wonderful. But what are those stories that tend to get told most often? And what are those stories that maybe you feel like should be told more often, that we need to bring more into the spotlight for our community?
I would say centered around our schools, our education systems, how they were when I was a young child. We were able to walk to school, and everything was just within walking distance. If our parents needed to check on us, they were able to walk to our schools. And when we had to get on a bus to go to a school that was outside of our general area, it still was a place where everybody in the same area went to. So we grew up together. We went to school together. We played together. We went to church together. So again, that village followed us. Today, we may get separated and going in different places, but learning where you come from, learning the valuable jewels of your community, of your neighborhood, of the surrounding things in your community means a lot to how a child grows up and how they remember the stability in their community.
So for me, it's looking at the named places.
Mm.
So we have a real legacy of, we're looking at Lake Mirror, we're downtown, Munn Park. So the names are representative of our history. And so the stories that seem to get told more frequently are the ones that are generated by knowledge about those entities. The harder ones are the ones that people made contributions and they have not been recognized with some named building or street, etc. And so that's one of the things that I like to do is to go and look and say this street was named this because of this person and what was their contributions to the community. And that's where we can pull in a lot more diversity, not only with race, but with gender as well.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a lot of rich cultural history here. I know Rochelle School of the Arts was named after their first principal, which also was one of the first schools to be integrated here locally. And it wasn't always, we went all through high school. There's a huge history with that school in particular, and with there being open enrollment. It gives you an opportunity to learn about it in new ways, I think, here locally. With our during Black History Month specifically, are there individuals, neighborhoods, or moments in Lakeland's Black history that maybe we should give a little more attention and talk about?
Well, I would say that there's a lot of special events that happen in our area to really give Black history a placement. But I am a firm believer that Black history is not put into the 28 days of February where we celebrate it. Black history is Black history and it's all the time. So we just have to be reminded that whenever there's an opportunity to share and remember and memorialize the historic significance of where we grew up, we should take that opportunity. Most recently, LuAnn, you was very involved with the remembering the Moorhead community, a community that got lost when we did the first, when the city did its first eminent domain, and explaining why that happened to the community that had to be moved was very hard. But let's not we forget what happened there. Let's continue to remember and share in the celebrations of those that lived, worked, and played in those areas. So having every opportunity to showcase those stories, and I'm grateful that the library has those pictorial histories of being able to go and search something, and now you could pull it up and you could learn a lot more about it. So
It's a community resource, and the Coleman Bush Building is celebrating a 50th anniversary this year. We've been involved with that. They opened up a 25-year time capsule, and the material in it, working through it, and we're going to put it on display. But in that time capsule, there is this little jewel. They were children that came to after-school programs there, and knowing that they were doing this time capsule, they had them write their names, 6, 7 years old. How old are they going to be in 2025?
Oh my goodness!
So these little children were benefiting from having this Coleman Bush building and having those programs of enrichment there. And so now we've got these kids that are now adults, and they're part of our history in a way that would not be reflected had that time capsule not been put there.
Now, I remember doing a time capsule when I was a kid. I don't know how many listeners at home did this, growing up. But I remember as a kid, we actually did that, and I thought it was the most amazing thing. How amazing that now we're in a time where we're being able to look at those. Is that exhibit going to be at the Lakeland Library?
It's going to be at the Coleman Bush building.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They have a heritage festival coming up.
Yes,
they do.
That's
And
February the 21st is their Black Heritage Festival.
Well, and they have a permanent exhibit at the Coleman Bush Building as well that honors some of our local Black leaders, and we also there's a park last year that was named after Madeline Brooks.
Yes.
Who here was a local advocate and really helped with integration.
Yes.
Would either of you like to talk about her
Madeline?
specifically?
Well, I know of talking to her daughter, Beverly
Yes.
Boatwright. I do oral histories, and she talked about her mom, and what really impressed me was her advocacy for getting people out to vote, bringing people to the polls, making sure that they were exercising their right to vote and have a voice. So she was very, very, very instrumental in getting people out to vote.
Yeah, Miss Madeline was just a powerhouse of a woman, and she said what she meant and she meant what she said. And people had a lot of respect for her. I did have the pleasure of meeting Miss Madeline Brooks, getting an opportunity to just be a part of some of those voting initiatives that she set forth. I go attend the church with her daughter, so it's rich in our church family to be able to share with the Brooks family and what they stood for in this community. And Miss Madeline will forever live in our memories and in our hearts forevermore for all the things that she did for our community.
Go ahead.
Her
Yeah.
story can be told now because there is a named entity. That's what I'm
Yes.
saying, the importance of recognizing the people that are important, especially to the communities, the neighborhoods, getting their name in place so their story can be told.
And looking, if you're in the car right now, or if you're, at home, you're driving by, look at the street signs, look at the buildings, and get curious about your community. I would encourage you to do that, because it's even just doing that in this last couple of weeks, preparing for this today and meeting both of you. It really has brought to light some news stories that I wasn't even aware of, and I think we can all continue to learn too. What about, is there a particular either photograph or document or story from either of you that really has kind of made you think or impacted how you see Lakeland?
Well, I would say for me, working for the city of Lakeland for 33 years, having the ability to identify geographic boundaries and name them into neighborhoods. And now that you see these neighborhoods, the geographic areas of these neighborhoods, we had the pleasure of also creating those neighborhood identification signs because, as you stated, being able to recognize when I cross over Lincoln, I'm realizing that I'm moving from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. People love identity, and they need to be able to say, hey, I live near North Lake Wire, or live in Paul A. Diggs, but that identity. And the city refers to those geographic areas by the naming of the neighborhoods. And I'm grateful to have been able to work with so many wonderful people to make that happen.
Wonderful. And the benefit of having can you speak to the benefit of having these, like especially the neighborhood associations, and what those bring and offer to our community?
Well, I would say the most valuable title that I gave myself when working for the city was I was that citizen link to government. I was given the opportunity to be the voice inside of City Hall that listens to the people and to help them navigate through the maze of government. So the neighborhoods, they have their identity. They serve and share with each other. They learn more. We want to know, the neighbors know their neighborhood best, and they share with us what some of their needs are, and we help to implement those things from the city's perspective. And I'm grateful that we have so many wonderful neighborhood leaders that have faithfully served this community, and they rally together once a quarter as a group that come together and they talk to each other. So they have that support system of if your neighborhood is experiencing this, then ours just went through it. So here's our story. So it's that camaraderie that we have across those various neighborhood boundaries.
And learning, right?
And
Learning
learning.
together. We're
Yes.
better when we learn
Yes.
together.
Yes.
Absolutely. Getting back to that question about the photograph or
Right.
story or
I'm so lucky to have the job that I have because I have people that come in with materials all the time. And sometimes it's similar and sometimes it's something really unusual. And you know, a person walked in a couple of years ago with a painting and didn't know much about the artist. And so we did a little bit digging and found out it was a Lakeland artist that some people remembered, some people had no idea about. His name is Jimmy Mosley. He went on to teach at the University of Maryland. He passed away at a young age, and they actually named a gallery after him in Maryland after this artist here in Lakeland. And nobody really knew about it until this guy brought in this painting.
wow.
Yeah.
What an amazing story. And all because somebody got curious.
somebody was like, do you know anything about this? I don't, and so we use our resources to try to find out more about, and it goes from being just a thing to now it's a treasured resource.
Now, is there anything that historical records kind of tell us, or experience tells us about the impact of and contributions of Black neighborhoods in America or in Lakeland?
Well, I would love to see more preservation for buildings that were of historic significance that stood in primarily in the north portion of Lakeland. A lot of those buildings were torn down, and I'm really hoping that this city of Lakeland, in conjunction with maybe the National Register of Historic Places, to come up with a local program to do some sort of preservation of where these prominent buildings once stood, because they are no longer there. And just the preservation, I would like to see more preservation in areas that are not historic districts. We have so many wonderful historic districts that are on the National Register of Historic Places, but I would like to see some sort of local designation for those ones that are not historic districts.
I can follow up with that a little bit too. Is for historic preservation, identification is the number one thing. And so, though the buildings may be torn down, identifying the place that it stood, memorializing it with some way, shape, or form, like a tour of these spots. But then there are some grassroots efforts of there's current preservation initiatives going on. There's a house around Lake Mere, not Mere, Lake Wire, sorry, that historically it was the law office of Larry R. Jackson. And
Oh, wow.
so once that gets renovated, it will be able to further tell that story. It's not its original intent, but it's one of the stories that building can tell with the historic preservation initiative. And so there's still little jewels like that we have to identify and get them collectively resourced to the community.
And Jackson was was the first lawyer for Lakeland, correct? The first
Well, he was a
African-American
big
lawyer?
advocate for civil rights, and he was very big in that Northwest community corridor, and was the one that really made sure that there was a branch library in that district. That's now the Larry R. Jackson Public Library.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, Lakeland Vision's focus on activities for a diverse community isn't just about programming. It's about ensuring that everyone sees themselves reflected in the story of the city, right? Because when people feel seen and heard and valued, our neighborhoods become stronger and safer places. And, Lakeland is a great place to live, work, and play, right? So we want to make sure we're embracing those stories of our citizens and of our history. Lakeland's strength really lies in its people. You listening at home, us here, we're all part of this story. And Black History Month really reminds us that many of these stories were carried through resilience and connection long before they were written down. Each month, we're going to try to spotlight a community voice, someone whose lived experience kind of helps us better understand Lakeland's story. Today, that voice is Terry Coney, a 73-year-old veteran and Lakeland native. Terry has served as Lakeland's NAACP branch president, and he is now one of our city commissioners. So let's go ahead and listen to what he has to say. What is something that you hope that younger generations growing up in Lakeland will know about the city's Black history that maybe wasn't always visible before?
Well, the building we're sitting in is the Coleman Bush building. And both Mr. Charles Coleman and Dr. Gal Bush, they played a significant role in this community, because the northwest side of Lakeland was kind of like its own little city, inner city. And, I'm not sure if you've heard, but there was always this little joke about on the other side of the tracks, the railroad tracks, a lot of different places around the country, railroad tracks separated, different ethnic communities. Well, in Lakeland, you had the north side of the track, and then you had Moorhead on the south side of the track, and eventually Moorhead was wiped out because of eminent domain to put up at that time, the Lakeland Center, the new Lakeland Civic Center, and now it's RP Funding Center. So you have buildings like the Coleman Bush Building. You have the Jackson Library that was named after Larry Jackson, who was a lawyer. And I often tell people that when I left Lakeland, just to show advancement or just kind of moving up, there was no black or African American lawyer in Lakeland when I left in 1972. So Larry Jackson was the first African American lawyer to come to Lakeland. This past summer, they renamed Webster Park after Miss Nellie Matlin Brooks. And just knowing the story of Miss Brooks, she was an entrepreneur. She was a member of NACP. She actually led the sit-ins in downtown Lakeland to integrate when they had lunch counters at Crest and Woolworth. And then the same with the Polk Theater to get the Polk Theater integrated. So you don't want them just walking by those places, using those places. They need to know the significance of the people that those places are named. I guess if I had to name a individual thing that kind of takes me back and that motivates me, I think I've been in 8th, 9th grade or something like that. I was 12 years old. And at that, you know how big youth sports are around Lakeland. Well, at that time, you had one youth football team, that was the Lumberjacks. And it had been historically white. And several friends of mine and I, we went to try to sign up, and they told us, well, we're still trying to figure out whether y'all can play. But for right now, you can't play. But for a 12-year-old to be told that all you want to do is play the game, that you can't play because of your skin color, not that you don't have the skills. Now, for me, it wasn't like an NFL career or a college career was ruined because of that. But for me, it put a positive chip on my shoulder to prove that, I'm not less than, I'm as good as, I can compete. And that's at the end of the day, that's what you want young people to know and understand, is that it's not necessarily a gimme world. But if you have the talent, if you have the skill, and you're willing to compete, you can get where you want to get, and not let people label and judge you just by the way you look. So that was a personal experience of mine, and I kind of used that as a motivation as I moved through adult life.
So powerful to capture those stories, right? And, LuAnn, this is what you do all day, right?
I do. One of the things I do is to collect stories from community people, to have them on tape as a legacy. It's more than just the documentation, the words on paper, but hearing the stories from the people like Mr. Coney just shared with us is fantastic. And I do it all the time. And if anybody wants to do it, they can certainly call me, and I'll get them on tape.
Be part of the story, right?
I totally agree with what Mr. Terry Coney shared in his story. It is amazing. Sometimes it's bittersweet when you hear the harsh realities of when your skin tone is the reason why you cannot participate in something. But again, it's not the end all. We want to make sure everyone hold on to these words that nobody owes you anything, but you owe yourself everything. So keep that inside of your heart and never let anybody put a damper on your parade. So I want to thank Mr. Terry Coney for his recap of some of his most memorable moments.
Well, and thank you both for being here today. I really appreciate your time. When we lean into curiosity and we look forward, great things happen. Lakeland has so many great things to check out. If you want to learn more, you can do from Lakeland's History Room, from the African American Heritage Celebration celebration happening at Florida Children's Museum February 7th, or the Black History Festival happening February 21st, or even visiting the permanent exhibition at the Coleman Bush Building. As we wrap up today's episode, we want to invite you to take part in Lakeland's story. Celebrating culture is as much about listening and engaging as it is about programming. Next month on Listen Lakeland, we're going to focus on entrepreneurship in motion, really highlighting women leaders in honor of Women's History Month. Thank you for tuning in to Listen Lakeland. Your feedback is valued, and we encourage you to head over to www.lakelandvision.org to participate in our monthly survey related to today's show topic.
Listen Lakeland is brought to you as a collaborative project between Lakeland Vision, the City of Lakeland, and Hall Communications, a community working together to provide an exceptional quality of life. Want to watch the show? Check out the video version at lakelandvision.org. Thank you for being with us.